we're on the hunt for new ground. And the question is
it good enough to claim?
We're hiking into a new spot, open to mineral entry. Is there enough gold there to claim it and make it viable?
We know the old timers worked here. They dug out some big holes, and Josh found a little color on a previous visit here. But is there enough to make a good claim? And just having a trace of gold is not enough. Is it something that we could actually economically mine? We're going to find out. We're hoping to clear a trail. There's enough water in this place, even in the late part of the season, to float a gold dredge. So it increases our appetite to find out, is there enough gold here? We got to get a little dredging operation going.
I don't know. You know, you can find gold panning, but does that mean it's dredgeable?
Maybe.
You know, the creek is down in there. Okay, I can hear the water.
I can't drive here in my sports car.
We're not too far. I think it's about
Good. All right.
150 feet down there. We got this. This creek has been worked by the old timers. There's definitely stacker piles from the old timers upstream. And from here up on the topo map, from here upstream, it's relatively a small amount of drop. It's not dropping a whole lot right here. Downstream from here, it starts dropping dramatically. And so from here up, we're hoping that this is an area where we've got some settle out, gold settle out. So that's why we're here.
So it was studying the map that drew you to this location.
Yeah. And then from continuing research, discovered that there was open ground, that no one had claimed it.
And we knew that way downstream, they found nuggets and good gold in this creek.
Yes.
But so how many creeks are like this in this part of Southern Oregon? 100, 200, 300, 400, something like that.
Yeah.
But we got drawn to this one just doing some research, and the nice thing about it, there's a lot of water here.
Yeah.
There's so many little creeks that are dry this time of year. It's the end of it's fall. So if we can find some gold here, that means we could possibly dredge it, know. And
it sounds like a good plan.
All right,
if it's worth dredging, then it's worth claiming. Wow, you're disappearing there. Okay. Safety, be careful. It's a smaller creek. A lot of boulders. It's a mountainous creek.
It looks like bedrock, but I think it's a gigantic boulder. Lake shore boulder. It's popped in here and kind of dammed up the creek. But we'll go up the hillside right here and do some digging. We'll also dig some of the moss along the edges here and see if we can't get some color. On a small creek like this, it's a fast-moving creek. It's going to be hit and miss to find gold. But we're going to see if we can hit. Black sand. I'm going to try to get the moss off here. This is, I think, a big boulder. 12, 14 feet across and looks like 8 feet high. It's kind of stopped up the creek here. Okay, so the water tumbles down here. Obviously, it goes faster in the springtime with spring melt after a snowstorm and so on. But I'm scraping the moss here because it's not bedrock, but it kind of acts like bedrock. Material flowing down and goes across the spot. And of course the moss growing in the rock acts something like the carpet in the bottom of your flute spot. And indeed this time I got a little bit of black sand. On creeks like this, a lot of times you don't get a lot of black sand. It's they move too quickly, and it's down in the larger creeks where it slows down more, where the black sand falls out. But we know there's gold here. And the old timers did some digging up here. Got a little color stream, but we'll keep looking around here. It's going to be hit and miss. This is very different than a big gravel bars on the big rivers. Think of the Illinois River and the Klamath River and the roads and so on, where you have big, long, flat bars, and it's not too hard to find gold on them. They'll be in layers there, but here. Obviously, it's just the water streams downhill just what I can see a stream that goes down 2 or 3 feet right to here in the next 15 feet. So that's
A lot of drop.
yeah, it's a very steep travel, much steeper than what gold likes to have. You know, 10, 20, 30 feet a mile is where you get the big, rich gold deposits on a larger river. But still, the small nuggets and flakes and so on will hang up in here. And they're here someplace. Looks like I did get a red rock, and that's a good sign. Got a couple of them. Okay. So it just looks like dirt and rocks on the hillside. So we know there's other places on this creek when the old timers rushed off the hillsides like this because there was some residual gold. And what we don't know if this gold comes from ancient river channels way upstream or from pocket deposits. Probably a combination of both of them. It's very typical in this country to have small lode deposits or pocket deposits, isolated veinlets that carry gold that really aren't enough to mine, but there's scatterings of them on the hillside, and there's enough of those little veinlets that are contributing to the erosional factors that eventually bring the gold down the slopes of the hillside into the creek. Then you can find appreciable gold in the creek. There's also the ancient terraces, ancient channels that the hill in back of me in places has ancient terraces. Josh detected a big nugget pretty close to the top of the hill. It was all water worn and it was with plaster gravel. So it shows that there's also that source of gold. I guess you call it secondary gold sources. In other words, it's from it's been already transported in an ancient river to this point, where the new gold from pocket deposits and erosions of veins is also present here. Still very little black sand. At least I'm getting some fine sands and gravels, ground up material. That's good. And a little bit of black sand, not much.
So here's something right here. The bank up here is showing some water-worn rocks up here a ways. Here's one. So, yeah, see that's a water-worn rock.
It does have the appearance of one, yes.
And then obviously right next to it is hillside sharp angular rocks.
Rubble.
So that's what we learned upstream from here. We saw where the old timers had worked into the bank.
It does.
It kind of looks like the cut, the edge of the old timer cut right through there. And then there's
the see where the fire burned the tree roots underground and caused recent settlement. And sometimes that's a good place to be because you get to see new ground. So let's we'll try to cut our path through the creek here. At least we can tell that no one else has been here in a long time.
Yep. All right, definitely flatter here.
And you know, we could put a little 2.5-inch dredge right in there, remove those branches. That would be the best test is dredge down and try to find bedrock, you know, and maybe it's only a couple feet, you know. Hard to tell.
Yeah, this isn't a bad spot. It's a lot flatter here.
Yes.
There's less boulders for one. There's a reasonable trail to get here.
There's an old cedar tree there that's been growing here for a long time, and so that means it's somewhat stable ground here. That's a stump over there from where the log 50, 60, 70 years ago. And yeah, let's do some testing here. You'll recall the first place we panned in this creek, there was a big boulder that kind of dammed it up and the water cascaded down to it. And I got some gravel on the edge, but it was loose packed stuff. It was blowout material. And here, obviously, the flow is quite gentle. There's even actually a natural little dam here. You could park the dredge right there, taking the branches out, of course, and you could dredge back onto those boulders and on the edges and maybe find some bedrock. It's a steep hillside here, so it probably isn't too steep. Being flat like this also tells us that probably the bedrock isn't too far away, but the most interesting thing is that down here, these rocks are really packed tight. And this is a good sign. In fact, that's why I brought an iron bar. You know, you don't see this mentioned in the old stories of pick, pan, and shovel, but an iron bar was a necessity for mining in most of these places, pry the rocks loose. And they're fine like that. But you know, it's the right tool. If you just had a pan in your hand, it'd be really hard to dig through it. As you can see, it's hard digging. Of course, this is where a dredge is so nice. A dredge just makes it fast work to work in the water level. Notice that I have a special shovel here. This is the Harbor Freight shovel that we modified and put sides on it. And it works better in the water. Makes it heavier too.
We're definitely probably going to find more black sand in this material.
Well, we hope. All right. Definitely more black sand. It's relatively coarse black sand. You can see the little chunks back in there. Little halo here. It's always nice when you can easily find color. It's probably going to be chunky gold when we do find it on here. Okay, let's keep on testing. We're going to take some of the dirt here. Doesn't look like much. But we've seen places in this country where you'll pan and pan and pan, and then a nice little picker shows up. And that's what we're looking for here. You'll notice that on panning this, that some of the material did not easily quickly soak in the water and started floating off dry, and I had to kind of break it up and be sure that it was full of moisture, and of course some of it is kind of like a clayish material off the hillside there. And if it floats off, it's not going to reveal any gold in the bottom of the pan. So how many pans is it going to take to determine whether this is a good, viable place? I don't know. Could be many.
Okay, well, we have potential dredge site number 1 right here. We could definitely...
I might have had a peek here.
Could definitely set up a little dredge here. So we got dredge site number 1 established.
Get my loop. Yeah, I think I got a couple tiny colors.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see them on the camera.
Probably not.
But they're tiny little pinpoints.
Okay.
Of gold.
Showing that there's a background.
Yeah, a background haze, which by itself doesn't mean anything, but if there's a little gold, there could be big gold. You know, so
Okay.
it behooves us to keep on trying. Should we dig some more maybe at the head of the bar right here, John? What do you think?
I think we should keep going upstream.
Okay.
Because we've established a spot. We found a place where we could pack straight to.
Yeah, and this would be a good place to run the dredge.
Yep. And for a real test.
Yeah.
A real test. Okay. So yes, we picked up a little bit of background gold off the hillside here. And now we're going to head upstream, continue to look. Okay.
I worked a little creek like this when I first started dredging almost 50 years ago. And oftentimes on the banks and on the edge, you could not find any color. I was quite surprised. A young friend got some moss off one time and actually had some little flakes in it. Almost always the gold was on bedrock or sometimes on the overburden above bedrock. You could spot the gold. But it's usually down and on the edges of the fast-moving creek, there was very little. Other creeks that we've been to were fast-moving, and there was a splatter of little tiny colors up and down the sides all over, you know. But oftentimes, it's going to be difficult to locate by hand alone.